ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम् वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं त्वं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्यदेवं श्री राधा कृष्णपदान् सहगणा ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते जयतां सुरतौ पंगोर मम मंद मतेर्गति मत्सर्वस्य पदाम्भोजो राधा मदनमोहनो दिव्यद् वृन्दारण्य कल्पद्रुमाधा श्रीमद् रत्नागार सिंहासनस्थौ श्रीमद् राधा शील गोविंद देवो पृष्ठलिभि सेव्यमानं स्मरामि श्रीमन् रासरसारम्भी वंशीवट तटस्थिता कर्षन् वेणु शनैर्गोपी गोपीनाथ श्रीस्तु नः तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So how is the rain treating you? Yeah, it's quite untimely. At this time of the year, generally you don't get any rain. But weather is changing. It's due to sinful activities that weather changes. When people become sinful, then this is what happens. Climatic disorder. The climates become erratic. Anyway, what to do? And does everybody have umbrella? How many of you do not have umbrella? So maybe we can set up an umbrella shop. Sell it at no profit, no loss basis. Anyway, make arrangements that everybody gets umbrella. You can either buy it from the market yourselves, or maybe organizers can arrange something. So, I think the best will be those who want an umbrella, just give your name and we'll arrange it. We'll buy it in wholesale and provide it for you. Actually, it's important, it's essential that you have an umbrella now. So, otherwise, how is everyone feeling? Okay. Do you have comfortable arrangement for sleeping? Do you have comfortable arrangement for eating? So this response was more enthusiastic. So that probably indicates that the prasadam is very nice. Of course, prasadam is always nice. Krishna prasad, what can be? Who can ever complain? And this morning I was reflecting on my classes, especially yesterday's class, and I was wondering whether I am making the householders uncomfortable. Please remember that is not at all the intention. I do not want anyone to feel guilty or embarrassed. In Krishna consciousness, everyone has his appropriate situation. Because ultimately, we are neither householders or sannyasi or brahmachari or vanaprastha. We are neither brahmana or kshatriya or vaishya or sudra. Our identity here is gopi bharto padakamalayo dasho anudasho dasho asmi. It is not that sannyasi situation is ideal or householder situation is not ideal. Actually, in this material nature, nobody's situation is ideal. Until and unless we become situated in Krishna consciousness, we all are in embarrassing situation. And the thing that we should remember is that these instructions that Krishna is giving to Uddhava, because Krishna is asking Uddhava to take sannyas. That's why these instructions are pertaining to sannyas order. And when one becomes a sannyasi, he should be beyond household situation, beyond any materially comfortable situation. Actually, material situation means Maya. Let us try to see the whole picture. What actually happens? Material nature is Krishna's external energy. Material nature is Krishna's external energy. And Krishna's external energy is meant for taking away from Krishna and forget Krishna. Make one forget Krishna. Avaranatmika and Bikshepatmika. Avaranatmika, covering material nature, illusory energy of the Lord, which is called Maya. Maya's business is to cover us. What is the covering with? The covering of ignorance. Avaranatmika. And Bikshepatmika. Throw us away from Krishna. That is Maya's business. And what actually happens in the material nature? One set of living entity get a male body, and another set of living entities get a female body. And they develop the attraction for each other. So that is the business of this material nature. It is, and the thing is that it's changing. The role is changing. Like one who has a male body now, in the next life, most probably, most likely, he'll get a female body. And one who is in a female body, in next life, she will get a male body. And this is how it is happening. The attachment is causing one to come back time and time and time again into this world of birth and death. Therefore, it is important that we recognize this crucial fact. Attraction for the opposite sex is the main business of the illusory energy, and that's how living entities are tied down to this material nature. Material nature has been considered to be Maithunagara. Material nature is a prison house. And what kind of prison house? The prison house of sex desire. Normally, prison means one has to be tied down. One has to be imprisoned. One has to be tied down. Yes, fly is kind of bothering. So, can somebody get a fan? Just hand fan. So, in prison, one has to be imprisoned, meaning kept in there. So how is the prisoner kept in the prison house? He's tied down with a chain. He's bound with a chain. And the prison house has high walls so that no one can cross that. Or some prison has moat, like water around. In America, there is a very famous prison called Alcatraz. It is in the middle of the ocean, just a small island, and that's prison, so that the prisoners can't escape. Similarly, the material nature is a prison house. And like all around this has an ocean, causal ocean. And beyond the causal ocean, there's glaring light. So even if you cross the ocean, there's the light which will blind you. You'll be completely bewildered. You know what to do, where to go. That is called Brahma Jyoti. So when one goes to Brahma Jyoti, he gets stuck there. Even they go out of material nature. Even they go out of the causal ocean, they get stuck in Brahma Jyoti. So the only way out of this prison is actually Krishna's lotus feet. That is beyond the walls of the material nature, beyond the ocean, causal ocean, beyond Brahma Jyoti. And that is Krishna's lotus feet. When you go there, then we get perfectly situated. Haribol, neither fan nor chamara, just hand fan. Because they are for Krishna, they are not for others. And still, very, very serious criminals are bound by a chain in spite of being in such a situation. They're bound. And the binding factor in the material nature, the chain that ties everyone down to the material nature is sex desire. Sex desire. Whether one is a human being or an animal or an insect, everyone is tied down here with the sex desire. That is why there is so much importance, so much emphasis to conquer sex desire. And the only way to conquer sex desire is by getting the higher taste, by developing our relationship with Krishna, loving relationship with Krishna. Because what one wants to get out of sexual relationship, the relationship with Krishna gives us a kind of a pleasure, a joy, which is million times, billion times, trillion times more relishable than that relationship. That is why time and time again it has been pointed out that Krishna consciousness, devotional service is the only way. So these are the subject that we must understand in Krishna consciousness. It is not that to become Krishna conscious or to come to take to spiritual life, one has to become a woman hater. It happens sometimes. And I heard that in the early days of ISKCON, that some individuals in a leading position developed that kind of attitude. And as a result of that, many women had been hurt. Women devotees had been hurt. Naturally. There shouldn't be any such discrimination. If there is any family, in a family, does the brothers hate the sisters or denigrate them? Oh, you are a woman, you are third class, or you are... No. When we have a loving relationship, then there is proper understanding of relationship, a feeling of relationships. We are related to each other. Even if we are in the human body, even if we are in a male and female body, in Krishna consciousness, our attitude should be like brothers and sisters, mothers and children. And sometimes it goes to another extreme. Sometimes another kind of tendency that is becoming manifest in our dealings I'm seeing, that some women hate to be called as a mother. To be addressed as a mother is the highest form of respect. But they don't like to be called as mother. So anyway, we have to transcend those transcend those platforms of misconception and come to the proper understanding. You can fan a little and then stop. Just get the flies out. You don't need to continuously fan me. And just from sitting there, you can, from time to time, you just do that. So I just wanted to, because I was reflecting on this in the morning about yesterday's class, I was thinking, it also happened because when I was just going out after yesterday's class, evening class, one couple, disciple of mine, they came to me, they were waiting there, and they told me that it was their wedding anniversary yesterday. So I wished them well, naturally, and I wished many happy Krishna conscious return of this day. And the wife was feeling, the female disciple of mine, was feeling a little embarrassed, and he said, "It has been too late that he met me. Otherwise he would have been better off." And I was thinking that, I was telling her, no, there's no need to feel like that. As householders, you continue your Krishna consciousness. As householders, you make your house into a temple. So that is the responsibility that the householders have. Make your house into a temple. And consider those who are in that house, they are devotees of Krishna. That is how we actually make a positive outcome of that situation. So anyway, and this morning also I was reflecting on that, and I thought that I would clarify that point. Like, wherever we are, sthane sthitva shrutigatan, wherever we are situated, we should simply become engaged in serving Krishna. So, okay, so now let's go into Uddhava Gita. So this is the 11th chapter of the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. This chapter is entitled as The Symptoms of Conditioned and Liberated Living Entities. Conditioned means those who are bound in this material nature, and liberated means those who are not bound in this material nature. So, in this chapter, Krishna is describing to Uddhava the difference between conditioned soul and liberated soul. Actually, in the previous chapter, Uddhava asked Krishna the same question. What is the difference, or what are the characteristics of conditioned souls and liberated souls? Just as in Bhagavad Gita also, in the second chapter, towards the end, Arjuna asked Krishna, Sthita pragyasya ka bhasha. What is the symptom of a sthita pragya, a person who has been properly situated in transcendental knowledge, who has become fixed up in transcendental knowledge? So in Arjuna, Krishna described what are the symptoms, what are the characteristics. And here also Uddhava asked a similar question. What are the characteristics of a liberated soul and conditioned soul? And in response to that, Krishna is actually answering. And the first thing Krishna points out, that because the living entity, although is a spiritual being, but because it's so minute, it is susceptible to fall from the spiritual sky. And in that respect, there is an example, like a spark of a fire. The troubling just a little bit, and now can sit down. So, okay. ওখানে বসে বসে নাড়তে পারো. So, like a spark is fire, but the spark is very small fire. And that's why when the spark comes out of the fire, it loses its fiery qualities. Coming out of the fire, the spark loses the fiery quality. And next to the fire, what is next to the fire? It's ash. And falling on a heap of ash, that tiny little spark that it was, it loses its fiery quality and becomes ash. And it identifies itself with the ash. So similarly, the living entities, because it is minute, when it comes out of Krishna's internal potency, it loses the spiritual qualities. And next to spiritual internal potency is Krishna's external potency, material nature. And falling in the material nature, it tries to identify itself with matter, like with us. We are spiritual beings, but falling in the material nature, we are thinking that we are matter, meaning we are this body made of matter, identifying ourselves with matter. See the example? Does it make sense? The spark is fire, but because it became separated from the source of fire, it loses its fiery qualities because it's infinitesimal, very minute, very small. It loses the fiery qualities. And next to the fire is ash. Falling in the ash, it becomes ash. Similarly, losing our spiritual qualities, because we become separated from Krishna, we fall in the material nature and we identify ourselves with matter. we identify ourselves with the body. So, and that is the meaning of becoming, or that is how a living entity becomes conditioned. Becomes conditioned by matter, becomes entrapped by matter. And we identify ourselves with matter. So that is the situation. Now let us go back to the same analogy. The spark became ash. That speck of inflammable object that has become ash now has the ability to become fire again. Has the ability to become fire again. Isn't it? By nature it is actually fire. But because it has become separated from fire, it lost its fiery qualities. Now if it wants to regain its fiery qualities, what should it do? Common sense understanding, go back to the fire. If we take that speck of ash that has become now, if we take it back to the fire, what will happen? Will it remain as ash? Or it will become fire? How many of you think that it will become ash? How many of you think that it will become fire? Okay. I am inspired by the reaction. So, now the same way, a living entity is a spirit soul. But it is due to the illusory energy of the Lord, due to the influence of the illusory energy of the Lord, that we are thinking that we are this body. So now, if we want to regain our spiritual identity, what we have to do? We have to go back to the fire. We have to go back to the spiritual world. Make sense? Now the question is how to go back there. That speck of ash, can it by itself go back to the fire? It needs somebody to do that. Now who is that somebody that takes a conditioned soul back to the spiritual world? A devotee. It's a devotee who actually is able to take the living entity back to its spiritual situation. And that is why association of devotee is so important. To come in contact with a devotee is so important. To listen to the instructions of the devotees and act according to that instruction is so important. Because that is going to take us back to the spiritual world. Therefore, only when one receives the shelter of a pure devotee, he becomes liberated again. So see the difference between conditioning and liberation. Conditioned soul, liberation, liberated soul. You turn away from Krishna, he'll become conditioned. You come across a devotee and surrender unto him, he will take you to the spiritual world. So very, very simple analogy, very simple understanding. So in this way, now Krishna explained how a living entity becomes entangled in this material nature. Just to reiterate that point, in Prema Vivarta, Jagadananda Pandit is describing Krishna bohir mukh hoiya bhogovancha kare nikotastha maya tare japutiya dhare. The moment a living entity turns his face away from Krishna, Maya immediately grabs him. And then his condition is like Pishachi paile jano motichanna hoy, Maya mugdha jiber hoy she bhava uday. When one becomes haunted by a ghost, then his activities become completely abnormal, mad, becomes mad. So similarly, when a living entity comes in contact with Maya, his condition becomes like mad, like a madman. He doesn't realize what he does. And we notice after becoming, after coming into Krishna consciousness, when you look back, recall some of the incidents, some of the situations that we had been in, sometimes the way we behaved becomes so embarrassing. I don't know whether it happens to you, but it happens to me quite often. When I think back, I feel so embarrassed. Oh my God, why did I act like that? Because I was haunted at that time. I was not normal, I was abnormal. Therefore the way I acted, just like a madman, doing things that was totally abnormal, undesirable and so embarrassing. Therefore it is, sometimes, often it is, you may say, well, Maharaj, in Ocean of Mercy, you didn't mention anything like that. Well, I didn't mention because I was so embarrassed to mention those incidences. Anyway, the thing is that today at least I have gained my sanity by Prabhupada's mercy. And I would never behave like that unless and until I become mad again by the illusory energy of the Lord. Yes, in Krishna consciousness also we act sometimes in certain way. But that may be embarrassing. But at least in Krishna consciousness we know we are doing that for Krishna's sake, not for my sake. Like so often, like yes, when you go to preach, as I was recalling, when we go to preach, sometimes people behave in a very, very undesirable way, unpleasant way. How many of you have you went to somebody and just by seeing you, he just shut the door in front of you? Yes. It's an embarrassing situation, but that doesn't embarrass us. We know we just went to benefit him, and the unfortunate soul doesn't recognize that. We have nothing to gain from him. He may be a very rich person, and he may be a very important person, but his condition is not really very nice. So you go to them to give them the proper understanding, proper knowledge. But they don't want to take that. But no, those situations are not embarrassing because we're doing it for Krishna. But a situation like that, when we're acting on our own false ego, would have been very, very embarrassing and painful. So due to becoming bewildered by false ego, one thinks himself to be an enjoyer, and he simply invites all kinds of embarrassing situation for himself, causing misery, confusion, distress, and sometimes happiness and joy. It comes both, but both are actually due to an illusory condition. Just like a drunkard, when he is drunk, sometimes he feels very happy. Most of the time they feel happy, a drunkard. But then afterwards he feels distressed. And then Krishna is advising Uddhava that a living entity in the material body, okay, so there is a difference between conditioned and liberated. Let us just briefly discuss that. What is the meaning of, what actually happens when we become conditioned? To becoming conditioned means we identify ourselves with this body. We think that this body is me. We think this material body is me. But a liberated state means he is in a spiritual body. Just as we have gross body, just as we have a subtle body, similarly we have a spiritual body. And the spiritual body is our real self. And we become entangled in the material nature. When we become entangled in the material nature, we identify our material body to be the self. There are two types of material body, the gross material body and the subtle material body. And the soul is there, but in that state the soul doesn't have a body. His spiritual body is lost. He has become just a tiny spark of spiritual consciousness. And his identity has been, his measurement has been described as 1/10,000th part of the tip of the hair. Keshagro shatobhagasya satadha. The tip of the hair is divided into 100, and then the 100th part is divided into another 100. So that is the size of our spiritual body, meaning we completely lost our spiritual body. It is only just a tiny little spiritual spark that is giving out consciousness. So, the living entity as a tiny little spiritual spark is there in the body, in the heart, and there is another person, that is the super soul, the Jivatma and Paramatma, spirit soul and super soul. So the spirit soul is susceptible to the reactions of his actions. The spirit soul acts and he becomes responsible to the reactions of his actions. Whereas the super soul is not acting. Super soul is just witnessing. So the two souls are there in the body, spirit soul and super soul. They have also been described as two birds in a tree. One bird is eating the fruits of the tree, the other bird is just watching that fruit-eating bird. That's the super soul. And the super soul is the witness, super soul is the guide provided. One is willing to listen to him. And super soul is providing the intelligence. Matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha. So this is how the super soul is acting within the living entity, in the body of a living entity. And when you go deeper, then we understand that the super soul is there with the spirit soul, with us, because the super soul is waiting. Super soul is waiting when you're going to turn towards him. That's why Krishna is there in our hearts. We left Krishna, but Krishna didn't leave us. Wherever we are going, Krishna is going with us. And Krishna is waiting. My son, when are you going to turn towards me? When are you going to come back to me? In that respect, often I think of one analogy, one example that I sometimes cite. The child tells the father, "Daddy, Daddy, I want to go and play with my friends." The father says, "Come, I'll take you to the park." So the father brings the son, the child, to the park. And the son, meeting his friends, other children, is so involved in playing with them that he has forgotten the father completely. But although the child has forgotten the father, but the father did not. The child is playing, the father is sitting on a bench by the park. And then at some point, when the child is afraid, it became dark, everyone is gone, then he calls out, "Daddy, Daddy, where are you?" Then the father comes and picks him up and says, "Now let's go home." So in a similar way, when we turn towards Krishna and call out to him, "Krishna, Krishna, where are you?" Then Krishna will pick us up on his lap and take us back to Godhead. So that is why Krishna is in our heart as the super soul. He's waiting. That Upadrashta Anumanta, although Krishna mentioned that in Bhagavad Gita, he is the witness and he is the approver who sanctions. But in reality, Krishna is not there just as a witness. As long as we are forgetful of him, he is witness. But when we turn towards him, when we call out to him, he is going to pick us up and take us back to Godhead. Krishna is in our hearts because he wants us to go back to him. He is waiting when we are going to turn towards him. But now, like that child meeting our friends in this park, in this garden of material nature, we are absorbed in a game. We are playing a game called the game of karma. In that game, when you play right, we enjoy. When you play it wrong, we suffer. So it's a game that we are playing. And the goal of the life here is to enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. But what is the right way to get the enjoyment? Play it right, you will enjoy. Those right actions are called piety, and wrong actions are called sin. You enjoy the right way due to your piety, you will enjoy. Due to your wrong actions, due to your sinful activities, you will suffer. But whether enjoying or suffering, we are in this material nature. But when we come across a devotee, then we get to know that enjoyment and suffering of this material nature is not the goal of life. The goal of life is to go back to the spiritual world. Krishna is waiting for us. The devotee tells us, look, your father is sitting there by the bench. Why are you crying? Due to the losses. Why are you crying due to your suffering? Just go to your father. So that is what the devotee does. He takes us by our hand and takes us to Krishna. So, now what about, this is the conditioned soul in this material body. How is the liberated soul in this material body? The liberated soul in the material body is still with his spiritual body. That is called Sarup. So, let us consider when a person, by practicing Krishna consciousness, becomes purified, he actually attains his spiritual body. Although he is in his gross material body, but in this gross material body he is a pure spiritual individual. He is not this body. He is in his spiritual identity. And the thing is that he doesn't have a subtle body. His subtle body is gone. The subtle body has dissolved. That's an important consideration to note. Yeah, I'm noticing one thing. I'm giving a seminar, but hardly anyone is taking note. Very few good girls are taking notes. And one or two good boys are taking notes. Okay, many good boys are taking notes. Yes, take the purpose. Consider that this is not, this is actually regular class. The way you sit in a class, this is something like that. And in a class, you take note. Not only I'll say that, please take note. That means, please take note. The note that we have to take now is that at the time of death, we leave the gross body, but the subtle body remains. At the time of death, we don't get rid of the subtle body. The subtle body remains. And it's the subtle body that takes us to the next gross body. The subtle body remains. Subtle body doesn't die. With the gross body, at one time, we just leave the gross body. We are free from the gross body. But still we are not free from the material bondage because the subtle body is there. And subtle body doesn't die. Then, how to get rid of the subtle body? How to get rid of the subtle body's bondage? Good boys and girls taking note? Huh? Subtle body doesn't die. But subtle body dissolves. It dissolves. Like subtle bodies comes consisting of mind, intelligence and false ego. Right? Subtle body is made of mind, intelligence and false ego. So, what does mind do? Mind think. Mind thinks. So, when the mind always thinks about Krishna, then is it material or spiritual? Huh? This is how the mind becomes spiritualized. By constantly thinking about Krishna. Man mana bhavo. And in this way, when one becomes engaged in Krishna's service, then he develops his spiritual intelligence. See, mind now has become spiritualized. Now, tesham satata juktanam bhajatang priti purvakam dadami buddhi jogam tam. Buddhi jogam. Krishna is saying, I give him buddhi yoga, meaning spiritual intelligence. So now intelligence has become spiritualized. And in this way, when one becomes engaged in Krishna's service, then what happens to his false ego? False ego is gone and he has become Jiver Sarup Hai Krishner Nityadas. In this way, the living entity becomes Krishna's eternal servant. So, then what happens at that stage? He doesn't have a subtle body. What happened to his subtle body? Any response? What happened to his subtle body? Subtle body has become spiritualized. No subtle body, pure spirit soul. So that stage is called Sarup Siddhi. Sarup Siddhi. He has achieved his spiritual perfection. Sarup. And then, when he dies, now he has become free from the gross body also. And goes back to the spiritual world. That is called Vastu Siddhi. Also that has been described as Ihajasya Harer Dasye Karmana Manasa Gira Nikhilasyapi Avasthasu Jivan Muktasa Uchyate. Nikhilasyapi Avasthasu. In all condition, all circumstances, he is Jivan Mukta, he is a liberated soul. So that is the state of Jivan Mukta stage. Pure spirit, pure soul is in a material body, apparently material body. And that is a pure devotee. So at that point, what happens? As I described yesterday, Avadhuta stage or Paramhamsa stage. He doesn't have external consciousness. He is not at all concerned about what's happening around him. Whether someone is insulting him, someone is glorifying him, he is totally unperturbed. And that is called the Uttamadhikar platform. But then again, another consideration is that in order to preach, such Uttamadhikari devotees come down to the Madhyamadhikar platform for the sake of preaching. So Krishna is pointing out at that stage what happens, what is his condition like. He's saying at that stage he doesn't speak uselessly to anyone and does not fix his mind on material things. Rather, he is always merged in meditation upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But in the eyes of the fools, he behaves like a madman. And then Krishna is pointing out that how devotional service is the only way to attain that stage. Nothing else is going to happen. Na sadhaya, extensive studies of scriptures, na sankhya, na yoga, not philosophical speculation, or performance of mystic yoga, siddhi, nothing of these will work. The only thing that will enable one to go back to the spiritual world is devotion to Krishna, bhakti. And that is why we should try our best to cultivate this bhakti and become properly situated on the platform of devotional service. Then Uddhava asked Krishna again how to recognize a saintly person. You said he behaves like a madman. Now how do you understand who is mad and who is a Paramahamsa? How do you recognize whether it is sunrise or sunset? It looks alike. A Paramahamsa and a madman or a retarded boy look alike. Like Jada Bharat. Nobody could recognize him, that he was such an exalted, saintly person. For many, many years, he was just there, surrounded by his family members. Even his father couldn't recognize him. His father was only lamenting, oh, this boy is not intelligent enough to study the scriptures. His brothers thought that he was just a totally mad person and they cheated him of his share of the father's property. His neighbors were taking advantage of him. Oh, this guy nobody gives him food. Come Bharat, come here, take some food. The food is there. But before that you have to do all these things. So they would engage him in all kinds of menial service and then give him a handful of food. And Jada Bharat was happy, like a retarded child. So nobody could recognize this. That's why it is very difficult to recognize a pure devotee Vaishnava. When he is in Madhyamadhikar, from his actions we can sometimes recognize him, who is exalted and who is not. But when it comes to the Avadhuta stage or Paramahamsa stage, It's very, very difficult to recognize a Vaishnava. So, naturally, Uddhava asked, how do we recognize such a person? Then he is pointing out, see, how to recognize a Vaishnava. That is how it's coming to. He is merciful. In whichever condition, although he is like a madman, but you'll see that he is merciful. The neighbors of Jarabharat is trying to take undue advantage of him. Jarabharat is not complaining. He is merciful. Oh, you want this? Want me to do this? Okay, I'll do that. Not even that. The dacoits wanted to offer to him to Kali in a sacrifice. Oh, you want to offer me? Fine. If that will please you, okay, offer me to Kali. So these are the characteristics. He is merciful, non-envious, non-possessive. He doesn't possess anything. Truthful, self-controlled, faultless, gentle, clean, helpful to all, peaceful, dependent on Krishna alone, free from lust, devoid of material endeavor, steady in control of 6 enemies of the mind, moderate in eating, never bewildered, always respectful to others, never desirous of respect for himself, sober, compassionate, friendly, poetic. That will be a difficult one to figure out. Poetic, expert and silent. So, even one is in a kind of hiding himself, a Paramahamsa, but these characteristics will be displayed. So this is how Krishna is pointing out one can recognize a pure devotee. And then Krishna is also mentioning that when one becomes engaged in pure devotional service and achieves that state of pure devotion, then he develops 64 qualities. 64 kind of activities. So, I won't get into that. So today, I will just live up to this, and I'll answer a few questions before. Just a few questions I'll answer. Actually, I'm not feeling very well, so that's why I'll end the class a little early today. Bhakta Om Thakkar. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my most humble obeisances. Thank you so much for the wonderful lecture. How to handle ourselves when we get frustrated while preaching, when we think of giving up preaching. What should we do? Well, consider why you're preaching. Are you preaching for your sense gratification or you're preaching to benefit others? Why are you preaching? Om Thakkar. Tell me. For sense gratification? Then why are you preaching? To benefit others. Do they need your help? Then why shouldn't you help them? Why should you be frustrated? If somebody doesn't want to listen, don't waste your time with him. But, all right? Like a doctor. Does he go to the patient because the patient will tell him, "Oh, Dr. Babu, you are so nice, please come." Rather, the patient says, "I don't want to take your medicine, it's so bitter. And no injection, come on, I can't take that." Right? But should the doctor stop treating patient because of that? You understand what I'm saying? Okay. Shakshi Madhav Das. What should we do when past life experiences haunt past habits? Give them up. That's the only thing you should do. Don't dwell in the past. Past habits, try to give them up. At least don't break the 4 regulative principles. Okay? Because the past habits can be so many. We have to work towards conquering them. Dinavatsala Das. Okay. This question is from yesterday's class. You had mentioned that a pure devotee doesn't consider even his spiritual comfort. He is ready to accept all kinds of difficulties for benefiting others. As preachers of Krishna consciousness, we sometimes have this difficulty that we are unable to decide how much we should stretch ourselves for rapid propagation of Krishna consciousness. For example, doing 2 programs in 2 different hostels, or to do just once a day and use remaining time for self-study of Prabhupada's books. Please give us on how to balance self-sadhana. Okay, see, the question begins with that a pure devotee doesn't consider even his spiritual comfort. A pure devotee doesn't. But until you become a pure devotee, you can consider your spiritual comfort. Okay? Like as I was saying, like if certain situation is not really conducive, leave that and go to another situation. Even if you don't feel comfortable in one temple, go to some other temple where you'll feel better. That's what I tell them, that look, if you don't like to be here, go somewhere, but remain in Krishna consciousness. Alright? Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. This is Parama Madhuri Dasi. Parama Madhuri Dasi, okay. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. As you told us in yesterday's class, that ISKCON girls can get married to non-devotee boys and make them devotee, but I have seen that in many cases, when devotee girls marry a non-devotee boy, they lose their Krishna consciousness and interest in service. Many times they even stop chanting due to the influence of their husband and family. My question is, how can we take risk of getting married to non-devotee boys? Very good question. It's a Guru Maharaj stumping question. Well, let's consider why it happens. It happens because the girl is not strong enough and the boy is stronger. Right? If the girl is stronger, then she would say, you do this or forget me. Okay? But otherwise, the girl will say, okay, nice sense gratification. I can indulge, I got married. So whatever my Pati Guru says, I must follow that. Pati Guru says, machli khao, anda khao, thoda daru piyo. So the question is, yeah, it's a risk that one takes, but what can be done? The girls should get married. Girls should get married. And in simple words we can say, make the best out of a bad bargain. Okay, if they do not want to take to Krishna consciousness, at least I am not going to give up my Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada's sister is an example for that. Prabhupada's sister actually got married to a family that were fish eating. But she never did. She had to cook even for them, but she never. And throughout her life she remained fixed up like that. She was a very, very wonderful devotee. After all, she was Prabhupada's sister. Alright? Okay. Try to make the best out of a bad bargain. Although I said, चलो हम चलते हैं, ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए. No. Once you're married, make your married life a success. Don't break your marriage. But tolerate and continue. Thank you, Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I'm sorry I'm ending the class a little early, and I actually wanted to cover a lot more, but I haven't been able to do that. Hopefully in the afternoon session I'll be able to cover more. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Afterwards, not now. I'm not feeling well actually. Maharaj just came to mention that today is Bhadra Purnima, and it has been, I heard, it was being announced. I also gave a message to the devotee community worldwide that it is very important to distribute Srimad Bhagavatam on this Bhadra Purnima day, because distributing Bhagavatam on Bhadra Purnima day enables one to go back to the spiritual world. That has been mentioned in the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 13th chapter, 13th verse. You can read that. So, Maharaj was mentioning that 25 Bhagavatam sets have been distributed, and he wanted me to sign. So I told him that, Okay, no, I'll do it. No, yesterday I heard the announcement being made that I'll sign. So since you made that announcement, I will stick to their commitment. I will sign. But my question is only 25 sets. Okay, who didn't take so far? How many of you didn't take? Didn't take. Don't feel shy. How many of you want to go back to Godhead? How many want to take this wonderful qualification, opportunity? How many of you want to take Bhagavatam set? Who hasn't taken so far? Okay, there are so many hands. Give your names and we'll make a concession. If you can't pay in one go, you pay it in 4 installments. So, but take the Bhagavatams. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
परम पूज्य पाद श्री श्रीमद् भक्ति चारू स्वामी गुरु महाराज की, श्रील प्रभुपाद की, अनंत कोटि गौर भक्त वृंद की, भाद्र पूर्णिमा महामहोत्सव की, गौर प्रेमानंदे।
Everyone together, a little louder, please. Hare Krishna, bolo bolo bolo. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare Krishna. Those who have already gave their name, there I am reading their names, and so many devotees want to take, but we don't have so many Bhagavatam, so please give your name as soon as possible. Already those who have given their name, Sharada Mataji from London, she is taking 4 sets. Manmohani Devidasi, Shachi Mata, Nagaraj Prabhu, Narsimha Stuti Prabhu, Shukanthi Devidasi Mataji, Navnit Chor Prabhu, and Vishalini Mataji, Karunamayi Mataji, Chandravali Mataji, Sharna Radhika Mataji, Sharna Radha Mataji, Nanda Braja Mataji, Champaklata Mataji, Bandita Radhika Mataji, Rukmini Priyashi Mataji, Radharani Mataji, Akshar Brahma Prabhu, Madan Mohan Prabhu, Amit Gautam Prabhu, Hira Mataji, Leela Shakti Mataji, Pranapriya Prabhu. Hare Krishna. आपका नाम? हाँ गुरु महाराज साइन गुरु महाराज promised. अच्छा जरा এখন নিচে नाम लिख
हाँ हाँ अभी बोलते जो आना चाहते हैं. So this is very wonderful.
माताजी नाम बोल के अनाउंस कर दो.
Mataji? So one more name has come, Natrani Radhika Mataji. Sundari Manjari Mataji. Mamta Agrawal Mataji. राधा प्यारी माताजी.
कृष्णा माताजी और शंकरेश दास एक सेट भागवतम.
शंकरेश प्रभु एंड कृष्णा माताजी.
हरि बोल. जोर से बोलना चाहिए हरि बोल.
सभी लोग से निवेदन है हरि बोल कह के उत्साह बढ़ाइए. हरि बोल. देवेंद्र गौड़ प्रभु. शिवानी प्रेयसी माता जी, जो आप बोलेंगे। देवेंद्र गौड़। See, Guru Maharaj has very mercifully agreed to sign on all the Bhagavatam sets. So Guru Maharaj is very merciful on us. So we should receive that mercy and distribute that mercy as well. So many names are coming forward. Deepak Prabhu. Deepak Prabhu from Ajmer. हर ग्रेस कारुणिका माता जी, हरि बोल। चंद्रमुखी माता जी, हरि बोल। जोर से बोलना चाहिए, एकदम प्रेम से। इंग्लिश में। मनोरम चैतन्य प्रभु। प्रशांत प्रभु, हरि बोल। जोर, एकदम जोर से, प्रेम से। आज भाद्र पूर्णिमा है ना, बोलने के लिए आपको भी कृपा मिलेगा, अब बोलना चाहिए प्रेम से, हरि बोल। मनोज प्रभु, हरि बोल। वसुंधरा माता जी, बांग्ला है भागवतम।
कृष्ण।
लास्ट अपॉर्चुनिटी। उज्जवल मलिक प्रभु। We are very, very thankful to devotees.
हरे कृष्णा। एक महत्वपूर्ण सूचना है, जो उज्जैन निवासी दीक्षा प्राप्त
क्षमामयी माता जी, हरि बोल।
अच्छा वो भी
क्या
शोभामयी माता जी, हरि बोल। जोर से प्रेम से बोलिए एक बार, हरि बोल। अभिजीत दास तारकेश्वर, बांग्ला भागवतम सेठ, हरि बोल। हरि बोल। श्रीमन नारायण दास प्रभु, हरि बोल। हरि बोल। ताड़ा ताड़ी। जयेश प्रभु, हरि बोल।